Why our daughter started watching TV was okay. I felt guilty for not letting her watch anything because then some of her friends were at school talking about different kinds of, I don't know what, Peppa Pig, these kind of things. And she had no idea what it was. So at first we bought some just coloring books and things like images. And then I agreed, okay, we listen to songs. Yes, then we listened to songs of Peppa Pig. And then she started watching series. And at least in my mind, not to feel guilty, because I used to be one of those judgy moms that if anybody's kids were watching any screens, I was like judging them so hard. I was like, oh, such a terrible mom. Your kid is 1 year old and they're watching TV already. I went full force with my judge. So I didn't want to be that mom. So I was trying to do anything and everything in my power to delay my daughter like the time before she started watching TV, because I knew the moment she does, like, she's going to be hooked. And even though feeling guilty, I did allow her to watch some TV eventually, and at least putting it in different languages so that at least I could feel a little less guilty, like, yeah, at least she's practicing English or yeah. But then probably, as every parent will agree with that, once you start, it's very difficult to keep it within some limits, right? Because they will always want more. They will always want more. And there are two reasons for that. One reason I would like you to understand is that, welcome to the Zen Supermom podcast. Today's episode is about screen time. Are you struggling with making your kids stick to the rules and agreed times for their screens? Or does it usually turn into a big drama fight where you end up losing your patience and having a meltdown too? Would you like to find out how to do it in calm? Let's talk about it. Hi, Supermom or Superdad. Alena here, your mommy tantrum specialist and the founder of the Zen Supermom system. And me and my team have helped hundreds of moms and dads start setting healthy boundaries with calm. And this is the first parenting podcast that is not about your kids, that shows you why none of the parenting techniques helped you stop yelling at your kids, and how to control your emotions from jumping out so that you can be the safe, loving parent you wish you had growing up. This is the Zen Supermom podcast. Hi, Supermom or Superdad. Alena here, your mommy tantrum specialist. In this podcast that is not about kids, and yet it is for parents, I am always picking topics that are a little bit controversial or that you might hear conflicting advice about. And the topic today is going to be no exception, because I have been avoiding it. I have been getting questions from moms about, well, and what about screen time? What do I do when my kids lose it? Because I take their screen, like phone, tablet, TV, I take that away. They have an amazing, huge meltdown. They cry, they fight, they call me names. And please, how do I navigate through that in calm? What is the good advice? What is the process then? And I have been avoiding doing podcast episode about it because, first of all, I'm not a parenting expert. I'm not a screen time expert or addiction specialist for youngsters about how to cut down their screen time. The only thing I can do for you is, just like I'm doing in every other episode, is show you how is your stuff getting in the way of you finding the best approach for your kids and your family. Because just like with any other parenting cookies, I have a problem with those. Because not only it depends on what your family situation is, it depends if you're a single parent or if you're two. It depends if you're an expatriate family or not as well. Like, how much support, how much time do you have to spend with your kids one-on-one, and like really present time and not just you counting to-do list or you being on your phone in the meantime. It depends how old your kids are, and it depends on your approach to setting boundaries and rules at home, and how consistent you are then with keeping them. You see how many factors? And then even more, of course, because the situation might be different depending on if your kids are currently sick, or if you have too much work and you need to just like drop them in front of TV so that they give you some space so that you can do some work. There's so many different factors. And that's why I do not like parenting scripts or one-size-fits-all kind of process. If your kid refuses to give up the screen, then do this. Boom, boom, boom. 1, 2, 3. This is most likely why you're here, right? You've been looking for advice because there are different places giving you different kinds of advice, and none of that is working for you. So let's talk about why. And as always, I do want to start with you, dear parent, because you have much more power than often we want to admit. We feel powerless when kids say no or when they refuse to obey and we don't want to yell. Then we kind of feel like, oh, so what do I do now? Maybe I should be that strict disciplinary parent just like my parents were, because I don't know what else to do. So if that's you, feeling stuck, completely powerless, then talk about it, what power you do have. And that's the power of looking at how is it, first of all, that you are contributing to creating the situation, and then for letting the situation continue. Okay? Because I don't know how about you, but from my own experience, why our daughter started watching TV was... okay, I felt guilty for not letting her watch anything, because then some of her friends were at school talking about different kinds of, I don't know what, Peppa Pig, these kind of things. And she had no idea what it was. So at first we bought some just coloring books and things like images. And then I agreed, okay, we listen to songs. Yes, then we listened to songs of Peppa Pig. And then she started watching series. And at least in my mind, not to feel guilty, because I used to be one of those judgy moms that if anybody's kids were watching any screens, I was like judging them so hard. I was like, oh, such a terrible mom. Your kid is 1 year old and they're watching TV already. I went full force with my judge. So I didn't want to be that mom. So I was trying to do anything and everything in my power to delay my daughter like the time before she started watching TV, because I knew the moment she does, like, she's going to be hooked. And there is enough research done on children's brains to prove like it is highly addictive and it is quite damaging. So those were reasons enough for me to delay as much as possible. But even though feeling guilty, I did allow her to watch some TV eventually, and at least putting it in different languages, so that at least I could feel a little less guilty. Like, yeah, at least she's practicing English. Or yeah. But then probably, as every parent will agree with that, once you start, it's very difficult to keep it within some limits, right? Because they will always want more. They will always want more. And there are two reasons for that. One reason I would like you to understand is that this is where we need to catch our judges. Just like I caught my judge, me judging other moms. I realized I have to catch my judge who's criticizing my daughter for wanting more. That she's spoiled and that she's abusing it, like my goodwill. This is where I realized, when I thought back about what I used to like in my childhood, what is it that I used to immerse myself in completely, whatever activities, when I put myself in her shoes, I would have felt exactly the same way. I would have done the same thing. I was probably asking my parents always for more, because the more I enjoyed, the more I wanted that enjoyment and fun to continue, right? So this is where the first step always comes with introspection, like looking in it. What is it triggering in you? And you, rather than being triggered by your kid saying no or trying to be defiant or fighting you on that and creating big drama about it, starting with compassion to say like, hey, I completely get it. If I could, I would have spent the whole night watching movies and stuff, because it is fun and it makes me forget about everything else and it makes me relax and have a good laugh, right? So starting with empathy and compassion, and then owning the piece that you are responsible for. Okay. And this is the hardest thing always, right? For parents, admitting that there is probably something that you contributed along the way. So for me, I'm not here to judge you or point fingers. I will do it on myself, and you will see if that example helps you. I realized that where I contributed to the challenge was that I was putting my daughter in front of the TV to kind of get rid of her, so that she's happy and calm for a while, so that I can do other things and finally like be able to breathe. And that's also why I was not consistent with my boundaries, and her screen time has been extending without me being in control always. Because sometimes if she asks for more, I just say, okay, one more today, just because I needed to finish that last email, or because I was just doing something else. And I was like, okay, do one more, and at least I have more time for myself. But then it was a problem, because the next day when I wanted to go back to the original boundaries, she was fighting to get, again, one more. And now how do you explain to a child where yesterday it was a yes and today it's a no? If you made an exception of some rule, right? And this is where me as a parent, me not being consistent and me creating confusing rules that were not really rules, because one day it was this way and other day it was that way, and that was completely dependent on me and my mood and my needs. It had nothing to do with my daughter, because she was enjoying it every time, all the time. She would have enjoyed even more. I realized that me not being consistent is creating wishy-washy expectations, boundaries, and rules. So then, of course, my daughter would then, every time she would ask for more, and every time I would say no on more, she would be pushing, she would try to get more again, right? And this is completely normal from her perspective. Let's please make it normal for our kids to always want more. If you knew you could get more money, more time, more, I don't know, toys, whatever your toys are, like cars, handbags, shoes, like if you knew there was somebody who would be coming one day giving you more, like wouldn't you want to get more the other day as well? All the other days, forever, until the end of your life? Of course you would. It's the same for your kids. It's like they would want Santa every day. They would want 10 hours of screen time every day if they could. And if you allow it one day, they will ask for it the day after as well. This is where consistency is really important. And whenever then you have already gone that far that it extended, going back will be difficult, but not impossible. If you want to cut down their screen time, you need to be ready. First of all, for a pushback, they will not be happy. You need to be ready that whatever new rule you decide, like, okay, so from now on, I'm really serious, that's going to be the new rule. You need to be able to stick with it no matter what. No matter if it's somebody's birthday, no matter if somebody is sick, no matter if you have too much work or if you didn't sleep well last night, you need to be ready to stick with it. And because you cut down their time on the screen, you need to be ready to give them the alternative that will distract them and that will be equally enjoyable for them. The younger they are, the more of you they need. Okay? And I don't want to throw in here any numbers, but for my daughter, she's 6.5, and I am still her number one, like in terms of how to spend time. I know that if I would tell her, okay, 10 minutes more of whatever she's watching on TV right now, or 10 minutes of playing with me, like me being fully in, she would still pick the time with me as her thing, okay? But that's thanks to everything that I've been doing also with her up till now. And thanks to the fact that she knows that when I am fully present, like the connection is what she needs the most still at this age, okay? If your kids are older or if they have been disconnected, the connection with you has been cut off already for a while, then you are not the main thing. Tough love. So you need to find out what is alternative fun that you can propose instead to your child, okay? Because they're not going to be happy and they will be bored probably, and you need to be ready to give them that time, because it will probably require some time from you. If you're not ready to give them the time because you're too busy, again, I'm not judging you, you might be really using TV to buy time at the end of a long day when you need to cook dinner and you need to give a bath to their siblings or whatever else you're busy with, then you don't have these options like to cut down, because you cannot offer your presence, your time in return. So in this situation, let's at least stop blaming the kids and stop judging yourself. Because if you do need to use the TV as a nanny, as a babysitter, and the only problem is that you feel judged and criticized by other people, and you feel like your child should be reading more books or should be, I don't know what, playing more, doing more sports, but you can't do that with them, for them, then you are locking yourself in totally impossible situation of this endless blame and guilt and self-criticism, and it's not going to help anybody. Huh? So if you cannot be there instead as a replacement of the TV or some screen, then at least see how you can limit the damage. So making sure that your kids have at least some time with you anyways, okay? Because here, and this is what I'm sharing with like super busy super moms, because they're often beating themselves up. Like, yeah, and I had to put my kids to school so young or to nursery because I had to go back, like straight back to work. And now I'm feeling such a terrible mother because they don't have this connection with me. Yada, 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 like high judge in your head. Like, stop it. The connection with your children, it's not about the quantity of time. And I know it from my own experience. I spent the first 2 years of my daughter's life, I spent it at home with her, not doing much work. I stopped my business. I put it on hold, on pause in that time. And yet I know I was not the best mom I could have been. Because in my head, that's exactly what was going on. I was stressed out. I was in my to-do list. I was constantly planning 4, 5, 6 steps ahead. I constantly felt like I didn't have enough time for everything that I was doing before, and therefore I was behind. And how come the other moms are doing it and I'm not? I was in my head constantly. Even when I sat down on the floor to play with her, I was not there. Unlike now, fast forward a few years later, I don't spend that much time with my daughter anymore. She's at school most of the day. But the time that we have together, thanks to all of the work that I did on myself, that was not easy. It was painful. It was long. But thanks to all of that, even if we have just few minutes when I can really sit down and look her in the eyes, not seeing anything that's wrong with her or not picking up any problems and trying to problem solve and think about like 10 steps in the future or 10 steps about what happened yesterday and I'm still worried about it or stressed out about it. No. I'm fully present with her. And that's what creates the power of the connection, okay? Even if you have to sit your kids in front of TV, you feel guilty about it because you don't have enough time to play games with them for 3 hours a day, it's okay. As long as you give them at least few minutes of your full undivided attention without judging them, without blaming them for being addicted to anything, without criticizing them, without worrying, making them anxious or stressed out with like constantly looking at the watch. Be there with them fully. You don't even have to talk. They will feel that shift in your energy. That's what they need the most. That's what they need more than hours spent with you when you're running around. They need that more than any TV screen, anything, even more than their friends, especially the younger they are, the more this is true. So this is the good news for you, even if you're a busy mom and you've been using screens as a babysitter, okay? But this would be really my invitation for you. Before you start judging your kids, before you start like criticizing them and blaming them for not being able to hold their enjoyment in some boundaries, look at it, how you are contributing to that challenge. Yeah, what prevents you from having some consistent boundaries, and what would be different if you let go of your victim story as like, poor me and I don't have any other options, I have to do it, and then I feel criticized by all of these parents and other moms and everybody, all of these parenting coaches telling me that I'm a terrible mom because my kid is already addicted to the screens. What would be different if you let go of that victim story and if you took some power back and see, well, these are the things that I can do, even with the little time I have, with the little energy I have. This is actually what will help me in my relationship with my kids, no matter what. Okay? Want to know why those gentle parenting techniques are not working for you? Where is that uncontrollable anger that you feel with your kids? Where is it coming from? Then download this mini book. I prepared it for you, busy, loving, but yelling supermom or superdad. Because no, it's not about learning more parenting techniques. It's not about doing classic talk therapy. It's not about more self-care time so that you can de-stress. No, there's something deeper going on. It's not even about your kids. So I compiled this mini book out of my most successful 1 hour long live training that I'm doing. I compressed it in just a few pages so that you can learn these 2 keys that you need to be able to stay calm with your kids, no matter how stressed you are, no matter how much they are pushing your boundaries, so that you know what it's going to take for you to stay calm and set healthy boundaries without yelling. Want to know how? Get that mini book now. So, I know that those were probably not like you expected, probably like 3 steps to quitting your kids' screens without any drama. I'm sorry, that's not how it works. And if anybody promises you that, it's usually more complicated than this. Yeah. I would invite you to check with your judge. What would be different if you stop judging your kids and if you stop judging yourself? Okay. And of course, if your kids are already addicted to screens, if you feel like they are not even able to put it down at night and they want to spend the whole night gaming with their friends online or anything, then please search professional help. Then don't just look for parenting advice, but look for really some specialists who are dealing with teenage gaming addictions and things, because that's a real problem. And if we are talking really about teenagers or younger preteens, what usually helps is helping them understand why. So not just that mom is preaching and mom is trying to be holier than the Pope, but trying to help them understand where those addictions lead and what it's taking it from them. But even then, understanding why is it that they're doing that? Why is it that they're spending so much time on the screen? What else is going on in their lives? Are they trying to avoid anything? Or are they trying to gain anything? Like gain some status, gain some appreciation with their friends, gain friends, because that's how they are bonding in the group. What are they getting from it? If you feel like they're hanging on to the games and to the screen so much. Again, going in it with empathy first, yeah? Because you understanding and you trying to be there as like, we are a team and let's try to figure this out together is much more effective than you going in with your judge and just like going full force and trying to shut it down without understanding why it's happening in the first place. taking your responsibility for how you help to co-create it and trying to see, well, what is it that you can do to get them out of it? Okay. Sorry, I don't think I can be more specific than this because there are so many different examples of how the screen time can show up. And we just had a mom on a group call yesterday, and she was sharing, because I think she had like pre-teen son. So with him, it was really about friends and how they spend time. And she went in full force with her judge saying like, yeah, and when we were kids, we didn't have any of this. And now these days they just meet in somebody's house and they don't even talk to each other and they just look in their screens and they are playing games. And so I ask a question, well, isn't this funny? Isn't this how every generation of parents and grandparents is saying the same thing? In the olden days, it didn't used to be like this. Because I remember even my parents used to say, in the olden days, like when we were kids, we were running outside the whole day until dark and playing games and sports and having fun. And these kids today, they just sit at home and stare at something. I'm like, yeah, Grandpa, that's true. But let's also have a look at how the world has changed. I would have not let my daughter run outside by herself until the dark these days. Like, I can't do that, not where we live. And things like this. So you just realize, oh my goodness, we became our parents and grandparents judging the youngest generation now for how they are different than what we experienced as kids. But isn't that funny? How quickly the tables turn and the empathy and compassion disappears because we put ourselves in that superior know-it-all kind of like, I have the experience, I can tell you it didn't used to be like this. Yeah, let's have a laugh rather about it. So let me know, what is your screen time challenge specifically? What is the age of your kid? And why has it become a problem? And why is it triggering you so much, Supermom or Superdad? I hope that the episode today offered a little bit of different perspective shifts and that maybe you took away something from it. So then let me know as well. I wish you lots of strength and energy. I know this business of raising little people with no patience and wanting everything and more. I know it's not easy and it triggers a lot of our own stuff because we were not allowed to ask for more, right? Our parents just shouted, they made us scared, and we knew we have to zip it up and just suck it up. Kudos to you for wanting to do better for your kids. You don't have to become their friend. You don't need them to like you and love you always. You will be making some decisions for them that they are not going to appreciate today. Maybe they will understand a few decades from now. Tough job. That's what our parents had to go through as well. So I'm sending you a big hug and I want to hear from you. Take care.